Imagine being alone in the middle of the vast Atlantic Ocean. No land in sight, no voice to answer your screams, only endless waves and the gnawing certainty that no one is coming. This was not a scene from fiction. It was the real nightmare faced by a young fisherman, Adolfo José Morales, who, after a catastrophic accident at sea, found himself stranded in a tiny boat, drifting without food, without water, and without hope, for 76 endless days. The ocean is both beautiful and merciless. It can cradle you in moments of peace and then, without warning, reduce you to nothing more than prey for its unforgiving vastness. For Jose, each sunrise was a reminder of his fragility. Each sunset was a countdown to the possibility of never waking again. But within this abyss, something extraordinary happened. He discovered a part of the human mind that very few ever encounter. The raw, primal instinct to survive, stripped of comfort, stripped of civilization, and stripped of illusions. This is not just a story of survival. It is a story of psychological endurance, of what happens to the human brain when it is isolated, starved, and pushed to the edge of existence. It all began as a routine fishing expedition. A simple plan: head out to sea, catch enough to return home, and continue life as usual. But the sea is indifferent to human plans. A sudden storm shattered his boat, damaged his equipment, and stole his provisions. In a matter of hours, he went from being a young man with a purpose to a castaway with nothing but a fragile vessel and a sky full of indifferent stars. The first days were pure chaos. Fear screamed louder than hunger. The brain, overwhelmed by adrenaline, oscillated between denial and panic. Psychologists describe this phase as the acute stress response: fight, flight, or freeze. But in the middle of nowhere, there is no flight. There is no fight. There is only the haunting stillness of the sea. Jose's mind battled intrusive thoughts. This is the end. No one will find me. I am already dead. Yet, beneath this storm of despair, the subconscious began to shift. Slowly, survival instincts overpowered fear. The human mind, when stripped of its luxuries, becomes an engine for adaptation. And so he began to improvise. He learned to collect rainwater in containers. He used makeshift tools to catch fish and even birds that landed on his boat. Hunger, which once felt unbearable, became routine. Pain became background noise. Survival became ritual. By the second week, something profound began to happen. His body grew thinner, weaker, but paradoxically, his mind sharpened. In solitude, he no longer thought about yesterday or tomorrow. His reality compressed into fragments. This sunrise, this wave, this single breath. Modern psychology calls this radical presentness. When the future is too terrifying and the past too heavy, the brain narrows its focus to the immediate now. It is a defense mechanism, a way to preserve sanity. But isolation also plays cruel tricks. Without voices to ground Jose began to experience auditory hallucinations, whispers of people who were not there, memories replayed as if alive. His own thoughts became indistinguishable from imagined voices. The human brain, deprived of social contact, invents companionship, a survival strategy against madness itself. It is in these conditions that the thin line between hope and despair becomes visible. Too much hope and disappointment crushes you. Too much despair and you stop fighting. The secret is balance, a fragile equilibrium between accepting death and refusing it. This is why survival psychology teaches that resilience is not about constant optimism. It is about enduring in spite of hopelessness. And Jose embodied this lesson. As days turned into weeks, his body deteriorated. Saltwater sores burned his skin. His muscles wasted. Hunger hollowed him from within. At times, he resorted to drinking turtle blood to stay alive, an act that disgusts the civilized mind but saves the desperate. The darkest nights came when storms lashed his boat. Waves tossed him like a toy, and lightning illuminated the abyss. Imagine being alone in that moment. The sky exploding, the sea rising to swallow you, and the thought that death could arrive with the next wave. Yet each time the storm passed. And each time, he opened his eyes to another day of survival. What kept him alive? Scientists point to the survival paradox. The weaker the body becomes, the more stubborn the will to live can grow. Death whispers with every heartbeat. But the mind, that ancient animal part of us, claws and fights to hold on to existence. In Jose's case, he often thought of his family, of the mother who raised him, of the life he still wished to live. These memories became more than comfort. They were fuel. Psychologists call this meaning-based resilience, the ability to endure unimaginable suffering when anchored by something larger than yourself. 76 days. That is more than 2 months alone in an oceanic prison. When salvation finally arrived, it was almost surreal. A passing ship noticed the fragile figure waving desperately from his tiny boat. By then, Jose was skeletal, his body broken, but his spirit unshattered. Doctors later confirmed that his survival bordered on the impossible. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, infection, any of these could have ended him. But his mind, relentless and unyielding, carried him across the abyss. Survival experts study cases like his not just as miracles, but as windows into the psychology of human endurance. They show us that the human spirit is not a poetic abstraction. It is a biological weapon, forged over millennia of evolution, designed to keep us alive against impossible odds. And Jose's story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. We are all capable of much more than we believe. But to discover this, the universe often demands a cruel price. After his ordeal, Jose became more than just a survivor. He became living proof of what the mind can endure. But survival does not end with rescue. Many survivors suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, nightmares, and the lingering weight of their suffering. For Jose, returning to land was not a simple return to normal life. It was a psychological battle to reintegrate into a world that seemed alien after so much isolation. This is another hidden aspect of survival. Sometimes the hardest part is not staying alive but living again afterward. Psychologists emphasize that trauma leaves invisible scars. Yet these scars are also testaments of resilience. They remind us that human beings can descend into the darkest depths of existence and rise again. The story of Jose, the young man who survived 76 days adrift, is not only about survival at sea. It is about the depths of human psychology, about fear, hallucination, despair, and resilience, about the line between madness and clarity, about how fragile we are and how unbreakable we can become. If you were fascinated by this journey into the darkest corners of the human mind, don't let it end here. Subscribe to our channel for more true stories of survival, psychology, and the hidden power of the human spirit. Hit the like button, share this video with those who crave stories of resilience, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment. This is more than a channel. It's a journey into the psychology of survival, endurance, and the mysteries of the human soul.